All right. Okay. Thanks everyone. Thanks for joining this event. Thanks to all the organizers of AMS Southeast Asia, Mevan and the team, doing a great job. Love sharing these kind of sessions with all the attendees. Also, thanks to all our partners who has contributed for this Southeast Asia events. A big shout out to all the Microsoft MVPs. I'm not an MVP, but I hope I can be one soon. Uh, and thanks to all these partners. Just a reminder to all the attendees, once you attend these sessions, there will be a lot of quiz. There are two questions related to this event as well. So when you get the opportunity, definitely do attend the quiz and win the prizes. Uh, yeah. All right. So my name is Alpesh. I have been working on Microsoft 365 for almost 4 years now. Probably around 2016 we started, in middle of 2016 somewhere, and from that time onwards until now, there's been a long journey, understanding multiple things and technologies on Office 365. Cloud has evolved a lot in the past couple of years, and that's where we start. This is the agenda for today's discussion. uh, I didn't mention this word zero trust in my slide, the previous slide. It was more on MCAS and on the conditional access. But I wanted to actually share with all the participants here, why am I talking about zero trust? Because as I was preparing for this session, one of the important thing and the learnings that I had on the field when we were deploying some of these technologies. One of the thing that came to our attention, and especially during the COVID, and now as we move towards the more post-COVID world, I think the scenarios have changed a lot now. People have really started looking at remote work with a lot of zeal and vigor, and I think that actually gives an opportunity for us who are the Microsoft 365 enthusiasts. Uh, we are the enablers of the real remote work, and I think all of us will agree with the fact that uh, this pandemic has really pushed some of this adoption. And there are a lot of things that actually are part of zero trust, but how MCAS, the Microsoft Cloud App Security, also called as a CASB, Cloud App Security Broker, and the conditional access, they come together and fulfill some of the zero trust principles. So basically, if I wanted to answer this right, what is zero trust, right? So zero trust, basically, if you look at the traditional network, people were bound to a specific LAN. They used to go to office, then they used to work from there, and IT had pretty much control of where the user was. If the user went home, they were using VPN, and basically it was helping them to connect to the office resources. The applications were also very much limited. The people used to come to IT and say, "Hey, I need this application. Use SCCM to deploy that particular app." And the services, the applications were pretty much hosted on premises. So there was a lot of control in traditional IT that we had. But as people started moving out of these boundaries and started working remotely, some of these challenges. So, for example, during the pandemic, I'm sure some of you or most of you would have come across a scenario where you would have come, someone would have come to you and said, "Hey, you know what? Now that there is this COVID issue and we need to make people work remotely, how can we actually adapt faster?" Definitely, the VPN solutions were not scaled enough to let all the users work from home. Forget, I think in my previous organization, it was about 20% or 25% at the max can work from home at any given point of time. Fast forward that to almost everyone working from home. And then, the regulations, the regulators, and especially the health authorities asking us to say that, enable my users, enable all your users to work from home. I am sure majority of us, we went through these challenges. So that cocoon, the boundary of the network was diminishing fast. productivity was everywhere. That is where you see, the users had to be productive from VPN. If not, if VPNs couldn't be scale out, we wanted to do split tunneling and so many other things that we did. This also not only introduced a burden on the endpoint management, but it also introduced burdens on the cloud app, on the apps, the infrastructure as a platform, software as a service. All these things also started coming up in the last 4 or 5 years. More and more organizations are moving to the cloud. And also, for example, in the banking sector, in the insurance industry, in the medical industry, now people try to use more of SaaS, software as a service. One of the prime example is Office 365. Huge amount of developments coming into Office 365. People are moving more and more to software as a solution, software as a service solution, because it's easy, it's fast, and your users can actually onboard onto a service. Workday is one of the example. My HR or HR things outsourced to Workday, and then Workday provides you as a platform. You go start applying the leaves, integrate with your identity through SAML or something, and then you feel like the application is hosted within your data center, but actually it's hosted in a cloud. So that was the cloud migration. People have started moving their services from on-premises to cloud. So now that boundary of your data center is also diminishing fast. So users were in one location moving out. Applications were within the security of your data centers moving to cloud. And now you are challenged with multiple risk mitigation technologies. Like, okay, so now that people are moving fast, and trust me, I think security is a bit slow in moving to these directions because of the complexity involved. It's not very easy to move from a one secure, simple solution where you have put all the necessary controls on the endpoint monitoring, and then build the cloud tier, and onboarded your applications to a new security model on the cloud. And that new security model is actually zero trust, because it gives you productivity from anywhere. It allows you to migrate your applications to cloud or subscribe to cloud services, but it also is very efficient in risk mitigations, threat detections. And that's how an ideal zero trust solution has to be. And that is where we will move towards to now, which is the capabilities in some products. MCAS is one of the product. There are a lot of other products that are working on it today, be it Zscaler, be it any application, any security provider who is trying to adopt to the zero trust. So what are these zero trust principles? Because we've been talking about zero trust. Now we know that, zero trust is something you don't trust anyone, right? Because you have lost that security of a particular boundary. Now the users are on internet, the applications are on cloud or provided by SaaS. So these are the three principles on which zero trust actually works. This is a Microsoft zero trust principle, but I think it is in general, not specific to Microsoft, but more or less all the technology providers, the security firms or the security technologies actually look into this as the guiding principles for zero trust. And what I've done is I've pulled this information up from Microsoft, but I've also tried to put, in each principle, what are the different kind of Microsoft products or the various products, but mostly Microsoft products are involved in providing you these kind of principles. What can help you to fulfill this? So one of the first principle of zero trust is verify explicitly, meaning I don't care where the user is coming from. I don't treat the user more secure just because he's coming from my internal LAN. Or I don't just say that, because the user is coming from internet, so he's more vulnerable. I would treat them same. If the user is coming from LAN or user is coming from outside on the internet, I'm going to verify each and every access sessions explicitly, meaning a user A wants to access application A. I will make sure that he fulfills all those parameters, and then he is allowed to access application A. Now user wants to move to application B. I will still make sure that he has gone through all those checks and balances before he can access application B. Same will be done for application C. What was the previous model? Once you are in the network, you can pretty much roam freely anywhere you want. Zero trust doesn't do that. It asks you to verify explicitly for every single session, for every single application. And why does it do that? Because it doesn't trust anyone. So zero trust is no trust. I don't trust anyone. Every access has to be verified explicitly. That's number one. Again, all these things, if you worked on Office 365, you know that conditional access policies does that. It actually evaluates you for every single condition. You define the conditions, and then if the user fulfills those conditions, access is granted. uh, you do not see a challenge every single time because of the Azure Active Directory tokens, the access tokens and the refresh tokens, and the way these work. But again, it is being verified explicitly. You can check it from Azure AD sign-in logs. I will show you later. Next is the least privileged access. Whenever you want to access something, you will only be given just enough rights, just enough permissions to perform that task. Once the task is finished, maybe I will revoke your access. That is the least privileged access model. It can be applied to a simple an application. You can create multiple roles within an application so that and a full admin can do just full administrative activities, but yes, he can move and do something else. Let's say there is another, for example, in the Windows Server days, you would have power users, and then you would have server operators, and you would have account operators, and then you would have, so these are all the various roles. Azure AD provides you tons and tons of roles, a lot of roles, and you can add the users to those specific roles, and these users will then be able to perform that. So for example, you would want to give someone exchange administrator permissions, and they will just go and do the exchange related activities. Even within exchange, you would want to give someone user administration roles, so they can only do the user permissioning. So some of those things in terms of the Azure AD roles, least privileged access. There is Azure AD privileged identity management solution, which actually helps you to make sure that you give just in time and just enough access. So these are some of the things that is provided by Azure AD PIM solution. And when it comes to IaaS or PaaS solutions like SQL as a service, you can actually give certain permissions to the users so that they can only do the user side of things, user administrative activities. You can even go to a level where you can give row-based and column-based controls, so people can only see certain information in the rows that they are assigned to. So it can go to that granular level as well. So that's the least privileged access model. And assume breach. And in this assume breach mindset, you actually are always looking out for trouble. You're always making sure that you have the full visibility of your entire ecosystem, the cloud ecosystem. And it is not just limited to Office 365. It is looking into your identities that you're using. It is looking into your devices. It is also looking at your cloud app services. So this is where the assume breach mindset comes into the play. You want to make sure that, okay, even if there was a breach, the blast radius has to be limited. You can segment the access. You can make sure that if one component is compromised, it doesn't go and end up compromising the another one, and then it doesn't end up go and compromising the third one, and likewise. So you would want to minimize the blast radius of any breach, and that is why the assume breach principle will make sure that every single stage, if a user is communicating with the server, or server is communicating with another server, or a service is communicating with another service using APIs or something, it is always encrypted. You are continuously monitoring that access. And that is where MCAS comes into the play, where it actually helps you with the real-time monitoring, getting inputs from multiple. For example, your Active Directory integrated with Microsoft Defender for identity, providing you insights on your user health. Is the user's password compromised? Is the user accessing from a risky IP address? So all these things actually come together, and that's why I wanted to go through the zero trust first, because I think as we move progress in 2021, the later half of 2021, 2022, 2023, these zero trust methodologies or principles are here to stay, and they will go more in the future. So moving to the next one, why MCAS? So I think Microsoft Cloud App Security is part of Office 365. If I would definitely talk about licensing, but I want to talk about the licensing in the end, because I do not want to cloud your mind with the thoughts of, oh, I don't have this license, I don't have that license. So you may even find this session then not much interesting because you may not have those licenses. But I want you to go through the what MCAS capabilities are, why MCAS, what is MCAS, and what it can do. Have the understanding of the capabilities of MCAS, and then you can go and look into the licensing and what you can do to bring your organization or your company to that level. Maybe you can share with your management and say, okay, these are the further additional capabilities. So why MCAS? uh, Microsoft Cloud App Security, or also a cloud security broker, actually helps you to discover the shadow IT. So when I say what is shadow IT, imagine the old days. You had a very controlled environment. Any application had to be first installed in the data center, then user could access it. Now with the cloud, they can just go and subscribe to a service. And one of the example which I think most of the organizations use for their HR management, which is like applying leaves, your compensation management, your pay slips, and everything, all is there in Workday today. It's one of the best example of a SaaS application. And I'm sure some of you would have actually looked into that app and used it, and you see how your organization actually is consuming a service from cloud. Earlier there were probably not such applications available, and then you would have a very different account to access. Even if you had it on internet, it would have its own account. But today you use the same identity to access all these services. So what is happening now is that people are more and more subscribing to these SaaS services. There are tons and tons of SaaS services coming on daily mode, uh, be it the HR app, as I said, or look at the developer applications like Atlassian Cloud, where you do all your development work. You build your CI/CD pipelines and all, and then you start deploying that to your Azure, AWS, Google infrastructure. Also provide software as a service. Dynamics CRM is one example. So now all of that kind of access is increasing, and you unfortunately are left behind because you cannot discover these apps. People may be using them, but you don't know, and that is one of the biggest concern that organizations have today. I have shadow IT. I do not know what all apps users are using because it has moved to cloud at such a pace. So MCAS helps you to discover the shadow IT, and then you can actually go look at the app and say, okay, is this app secure enough? Yes, it is following all my various, and I'll show you shortly, all these different critical parameters. It is following the GDPR and all those things, and then you can sanction that app so that users can use it without any interruption. You can also unsanction the apps. If you think it is a very insecure app, Dropbox box, you're already providing users capabilities in OneDrive for Business. Why do you want to allow users to use Dropbox or Box? Or if you want to allow or sanction it, you would want it under certain controls. So that's where your unsanctioned apps, you don't want them to use it. You just go click one touch of a button, you unsanction the app, users cannot access it. And when you integrate that with Microsoft Defender for endpoint, another product from Microsoft, which is for the endpoint security, you can actually send a message to the users. Hey, I noticed that you're using an unsanctioned app, which is Dropbox or Box. Why don't you use OneDrive for Business for your official purpose? So that's one of the things you can do with MCAS, which is to discover the shadow IT, discover all the various applications that user is using, data is being uploaded, and we'll go through each one of these, what I've listed here. There are a lot of things MCAS can actually do, but the time is limited. And I thought that these four will be critical for any organization, and that's why I've chosen these four. But I have also shared reference articles at the end of the slide. You can go to that and you can actually see what MCAS can do. You can also hear Matt Sossman's YouTube videos on Microsoft Cloud App Security. Very informative, small videos, 3 to 5 minutes, sometimes 8 minutes, and he picks one topic like I'm doing now, and he will talk about it. And I've taken some of that from his videos as well. Then detect and manage suspicious activities is something that MCAS can do. And when I say detect and manage suspicious activities, it is not just user activities, but if you have a Microsoft Defender for endpoint protection, is the device doing anything suspicious? Is there malware? I will detect and I will manage, meaning I will respond to it. So user can there are certain policies which I will show, like risky locations or risky IP addresses, because there is a dark web. So if someone is trying to use a Tor browser to anonymize his access, MCAS can detect that and block the user and say, hey, I think you're coming from a Tor browser or a known browser. I don't understand it and I'm not going to allow you to access. So that's the managing the suspicious activities. Someone is downloading huge amount of data in short span of time. That's a suspicious activity. Why would they do that? Unless they're coming from an IP that you identify. Maybe his machine is rebuilt, right? And he's trying to download all of his OneDrive on the new machine. Okay, that's a fair activity and can be detected as false positive. But if the user is on the internet and doing that, it's very difficult to identify, is it really the activity, expected activity, and then you can actually go and investigate. But if it's coming from a known IP address where you can define your corporate IP range, and a laptop has been rebuilt and is going to office and download, you can actually say, okay, we know that the user is downloading a lot of data in small amount of time, but is coming from a trusted IP. So I'm going to ignore that alert. I'll just put it as a informational thing in the MCAS alerts, but I'm not going to actually create a ticket on this or assign it to someone to investigate. But if it is coming from a non-trusted IP, definitely I would want to know if the user account is compromised. So that's these are certain things, and I will show you more in depth on the portal itself. The third one that I want to talk about is block download of sensitive information. Absolutely. You can use information protection policies to classify and label sensitive information, which may be consisting of PCI DSS information, your company specific. For example, there's a project, a specific project that your company is working on. There are keywords. You can put that and label it as sensitive information. Anything related to this, you can actually go and block download on unmanaged. So this scenario, I'm going to actually share with you that you want your users to be productive, but you also want to make sure that they don't end up downloading sensitive info on their personal devices. So in this scenario, in this demo, I will show you, because the device from where I'm presenting right now is not a managed device. It is an unmanaged device. What happens when I access my company information on an unmanaged device? I can still access it. I can still, I can still go through the access portion. I can view the files, but I cannot download on my unmanaged device. And that's the conditional access app control policy. This is where the conditional access comes in and helps you to block download of sensitive information. And then the last thing that I would walk you through, MCAS, is the extended governance to endpoint remediation. On this one, I will show you that when a risk, when you create a policy and you create an alert and you say that, hey, if there is any suspicious activity, ideally in the old days, we would actually create a ticket to the SOC team. The SOC team will go and review, and then SOC team will tell the desktop team, hey, go and get this. First of all, they'll struggle to find the name of the device based on the IP address, because in the old days, the DNS had issues, and there were disparate systems. There used to be SCCM, but not integrated with the SOC system. So it was very difficult to actually build the whole relationship. Once you get the IP of the username, which device he's using, find that out, and then go to the SCCM team. Hey, we see this, give me the name of the device for this user, this IP on that particular time. You get the device name, then you ask the probably the security team, the endpoint security team, to go and say, okay, can you isolate this device and run a full scan? And I've got this. It used to take a lot of time, and there was a lot of manual efforts, and there were a lot of systems involved, and you didn't get that one unique view and it was very inefficient as well. So it resulted in time, and by that time, maybe if there was a genuine threat, it would have already spread in your organization, and you're just firefighting to now control it. What would you do? You would start wiping out the operating system on those machines, refreshing the OS, rebuilding everything, and then users are losing data, and it's chaotic. So that's where the MCAS will actually help you with the input or the signals from multiple points coming in from Azure Active Directory sign-in logs to see where the user is signing in from, Defender for identity to identify which device the user is logging on from, and what was the process, it can go deep dive into the process level and find out, okay, this user was using Chrome to access certain thing, and that is how he got to at this point. Once you identify the device threat level, you can actually use Power Automate to run a Defender full scan on the endpoint device, and if you detect something, then instruct Defender to actually in fact MCAS to actually suspend the user session, or ask the user to sign in again, or block the user from signing in. So these are certain things you can automatically remediate using the MCAS. Again, something I've spoken already. MCAS is an enterprise class technology. It helps you with the identity and access management. You can integrate your Active Directory with Microsoft Defender for identity. You do that by installing certain agents on your domain controllers, which sends the user user activity signals to the Defender for identity portal. I will show you in the MCAS where you can integrate it. In my scenario, in my lab, I'm not using full-fledged Active Directory. It's a real zero trust scenario, so I'm using a AWS managed AD. So where AWS manages the Active Directory, domain controls, and everything for me, and I'm just consuming it as a service. Threat protection is pretty much in the cloud or on the devices. So you have Microsoft Defender for endpoint, where you can actually get the input signals, the threat signals from the endpoints. And then you have Microsoft Defender ATP, or for Office 365, where it will continuously scan on SharePoint and OneDrive and your email and get all the signals from your Microsoft Exchange Online Protection. If there is a anti-malware or spyware policies that you've configured, and somehow that malware travel through an email on the device. So now that you have identity, you have the data on the endpoint, and now you have the collaboration tools also under the Defender scan equivalent. You're getting signals from multiple locations into one place. So that's covering all of your journey across multiple technologies. Information protection basically is classifying and identifying sensitive information or confidential information, and making sure that you can actually not only do it on your laptops, but you can also proactively do it on your SharePoint. What if a file was uploaded to SharePoint before it could be even classified on the device? So MCAS helps you to actually go and detect and identify those information in any of your collaborations, even in cloud or on the devices. And the security management, as I spoke to you about, was getting all that input and then doing investigation, and up to an extent using Power Automate, doing some remediation actions as well. Again, the cloud services, as I said, by average, enterprises like more than 1,000 different cloud services. They are listed over here on the slide. And as more and more cloud services are discovered, so are new threats coming in. So there are 28% increase in the cloud. I think this is an old slide from 2019 or 2020, again from one of Matt Sussman's videos. So credit to him, it is his slide. So 28% of these threats have increased in just 1 year alone in 2020 because of all this massive amount of increase in the SaaS-based services. There are data records that have been stolen in the past, and we will see in how these various applications actually are detected. So okay, so discover Shadow IT. Now with this, I would actually go to the the dashboard itself, the Cloud App Security dashboard. You can actually go to the Cloud App Security dashboard by going to portal.cloudappsecurity.com, and based on your logged on user, it will automatically redirect you to your tenant portal, based on your tenant portal. So once you go there, you can actually get into your Cloud App Security dashboard. One of the first things that you should do once you log into your Cloud App Security for the first time is you got to connect the apps, right? So without you connecting the various apps to your Cloud App Security, there are certain things that actually happen automatically once you do that. However, first of all, you need to connect apps, and you do that by you can actually pull all the various applications, right? So if you look at this, these are some of the applications provided by Microsoft. You can even go and suggest Microsoft for additional applications. But there are multiple applications. Office 365 is something that I have connected in my test environment. I do not have Azure, so I was not able to get it. But again, you can just when you select Office 365, you get all these options. And this is where the MCAS is saying that, okay, for Office 365, I'm going to pull in all these logs. The Azure AD users and groups, I'm going to sync from Azure Active Directory, because when you set up Office 365, you do your identity sync and everything. Then you have the Azure AD management events. You have the sign-in events, your Azure AD apps that you publish in your Active Directory Azure AD, O365 activities and files. And once you connect, your app gets connected. What happens? You start getting the insights. It can take anywhere from 24 to 48 hours once you connect your apps to actually show it as connected. It can take 24 to 48 hours. Actually, it took me, I think it took me 2 days, full 48 hours to actually be fully effective, and for me to start seeing some meaningful information in my dashboard, like what you see here, right? Where are majority of my users coming from? So these are the various insights you get. Where do I get these insights from actually? Is MCAS getting it? Absolutely. It is only pulling information from multiple locations. So where do I get this location information? It's actually from the Azure Active Directory sign-in logs. So if you look at this, when you look at the Azure AD sign-in logs, when you've seen it, you will see that, there's this location, and there you go. So it is actually pulling the location information. Majority of my users are accessing it from the Singapore region, and that's what the dashboard is showing. 84% of my activities are from Singapore, some of them from Japan, Korea, Hong Kong, India, and some of them from US. This is based on the user locations. So this is how, once you connect the Office 365, you will actually be able to see these insights, right? So the first thing is connect your app. The second thing is, when you want to discover shadow IT, what you need to do is you need to have some sort of integration with your on-premises, for example, your firewall logs or your proxy logs. Because how does a user access a service from the corporate network today, right? Through proxy or through firewall. So once you upload you can create a report. Unfortunately, mine is a fully cloud environment, so I don't have it. But I can actually upload some information from the data sources taken from my firewall, from my proxy. Cloud App Security will analyze that information and start preparing, okay, what is the user accessing? And because these users are synced to your Azure AD, and the Azure AD is sending a signal to MCAS, you actually build the whole relationship of the users, the devices, and also from your firewall, as well as your, the cloud app, from your proxy. So once you've done that, if you are using a cloud proxy, something like Zscaler, right? So in my test lab, I'm doing some integration with Zscaler, which is a cloud proxy. In past, we used to have a proxy which is installed in our network. Here, I'm using a proxy on the cloud, proxy service on the cloud. So whenever my user is accessing anything from my corporate device, which is, by the way, not hybrid Azure AD join, purely Azure AD. I'm not joining it to my Active Directory. I'm just joining it to Azure AD. The Zscaler client will log in, and every single browsing session of the user will be logged by Zscaler. And then I will pull all that information from Zscaler. So likewise, you can, and this is an automatic log upload. But for your firewall and your proxy logs, which are on premises, you have to manually upload these reports. So that's one problem we have. So now you're getting all that inputs from Azure AD, from your data, from endpoints, because you're Defender for endpoint. You have integrated the Defender for endpoint with Cloud App Security. And this is where we select the option for endpoint integration. You also say enforce app access. I will show you when you unsanction an app, you can actually publish an alert on the end user device. So that's what we have here. You upload the logs. Now that you have done this, what do you expect? Now you start the cloud, the shadow IT discovery. These are the various apps that were discovered in my environment that I am using this technology, or where the MCAS is set up. And what are my users accessing? What are the various apps? So if I go to the dashboard, it tells me there are 84 apps that my users are using. Not all of them I'm aware of. There are 12 different IP addresses. 7 users are using it from 7 devices, and to these apps, 3.4 GB of data has been uploaded, or 260 MB of data, and 3.1 GB is downloaded. Most of them are hosting services, so that can be categorized as Office 365 and all that, which is fine. These are the various categories, and these are the apps. Majority of the data downloaded from Amazon CloudFront. Maybe the developers are doing something in this environment. Netflix, okay, good. Someone is watching Netflix, and I can actually go to that app and I can find people who are doing it. So basically, you can go to the app, and we have this account. That's the amount of traffic spent, and this are all the insights that I'm getting because I had integration with Zscaler, and it is my proxy, and the proxy is detecting all the traffic, feeding it back to Cloud App Security. I do not need to go to Zscaler portal. I'm getting that information right here, and this is the information about the Netflix, right? So this is what Netflix is capable of. It is not capable of doing multi-factor authentication. Should I sanction? Should I unsanction this app? Probably helps me to do that decision. What are the various compliance? It doesn't have information about this. Data is unavailable. Netflix may not be sharing this information, but it's SOX compliant. So these are the various things. So it is GDPR compliant. It helps you as an administrator to say, okay, you know what, this app, probably Netflix, do I really need this app, right? And what is the use? I can actually go and now find Netflix. Right? And I have decided that, okay, Netflix is for news and entertainment, and I don't think our users really need it on their corporate laptops, or in their corporate environment. They want Netflix, they can go and use it from their personal devices. So this is where I can tag it as sanctioned if it was a valid app, but I think I don't want them to access it. I tag it unsanctioned, and now from my corporate devices, and because I also have an integration with Zscaler, when the user now next goes to access Netflix, he will see a banner. Because of an integration with Defender for Identity, I can actually tell the user based on this. When I block access to an app that are marked unsanctioned, the Defender for Endpoint will actually send a warning to the user. Hey, you know what? This app is being unsanctioned by the company. You're not allowed to access this app. And now the Zscaler will also block the browsing session. So you have blocked it at the Defender for endpoint level, as well as you have blocked it at the Zscaler level right from here. So this is how you can actually. So there are certain other things that I have blocked, and these are based on the discovery that I have done. Right, and this is what the MCAS helps you in terms of cloud, the shadow IT. It helps you to make sure that you are in full control of the information. It gives you more discovered app, the various discovered resources who are accessing it, but I don't think we have anything in this. Who are the users? What type of traffic we are seeing? And you can get and further investigate. You can actually reach out to the users as well of what all things they are accessing. You can actually look at this particular user, right? And you can say, okay, what all apps this user is using. If this user was a risky user, right? You can actually go, okay, this user is accessing all these applications. Fine. And I have pretty much, I can even monitor an app. I can say, I'll tag it as monitored application. So whatever he's doing on YouTube now is being monitored. So we're not blocking him. We're not restricting him because he may be watching educational videos. But okay, fine. So we let him. We block Netflix, but we let him watch YouTube. That's fine. And these are the IP addresses from where they're accessing. Various IP addresses and the devices. So you get all that information. Where is it coming from? Again, from your Azure Active Directory. All that information is being synced. Where is that information? From Defender for Endpoint. All that information is coming. So this is the discovery of the shadow IT. One of the first points that we were discussing. Right. You can also do Defender for Identity integration. Defender for Identity. But as I told you, I couldn't do that in my environment because I do not have a full-fledged Active Directory. But if I had this Defender for Identity integrated with MCAS, I will show you in the future, in the next couple of demos, that how you can use it to actually protect your on-premises Active Directory from threats that are actually been there for a long time, past the hash. Golden ticket issues, Kerberos SPN, risky SPNs, and all those things. You can actually do that from by integrating your Microsoft your identities with Microsoft Defender for Identity. The requirement is that you need to install some sensors on your domain controllers so that MCAS can get that information through Defender for Identity integration. So Defender for Identity, Defender for Endpoint, and Defender for Office 365. That you can do that, when you go to your security portal on the Defender portal, you can actually go and do the investigation. You can actually create policies for anti-spam, anti-malware. So now you're also covering your cloud, right? So I think, yeah, it is this one, policies and rules. So there are threat policies. So anti-phishing, anti-spam, anti-malware, safe links, safe attachments, all these things you can configure here. And once you do that, the signals come into the Office 365. So if you want to also label or protect your information, you have to enable this checkbox in Cloud App Security under Settings, enable file monitoring. So what happens is, if you have a certain file that is on your laptop being uploaded to a SaaS application like MyHR, for example, your personal information is being uploaded to the SaaS application, it will monitor that and make a log in the alerts, so that it tells you, in this environment, unfortunately, I do not have so many alerts because it's very small environment, but you'll see, hey, sensitive information was uploaded to blah, blah app, was from the name of the app, status is open, and the severity depending on how you configured the policies. So this is all about Shadow IT. I think very little time left. I will move to the next one, which is detect and manage suspicious activities. Again, this is all UEBA, the user and entity behavioral analytics, and machine learning. There's a lot of machine learning that goes into this based on the policies that you configure. So real quick, I will show you certain policies like risky sign-ins already enabled by default. You don't need to go and do this. Like I was talking previously about the golden ticket usage. If your Defender for Identity, you install those sensors on your domain controllers, get uploaded to MCAS, you can actually, these policies are all enabled. Suspected identity threat, pass the hash. All this is already integrated in MCAS. You just do your Defender for Identity integration. You get all the insights here for your users. Data exfiltration over SMB, all of that information is coming in. So risky sign-in, it's basically telling you that, if a user, if my account is being used from Singapore for all this while, and then all of a sudden my account is being accessed from a high-risk country, very famous for espionage, then because of the machine learning, it knows, hey, this guy has been logging in for this IP for a long time. This is the first time I have seen him. There'll be immediately an alert, a risky sign-in, because the user has logged on for the first time. Maybe the user traveled to that country and was accessing it from there. It could be genuine. However, if the user is accessing it from Singapore and then the risky country just within a span of 5 minutes, is it possible for the user to travel from Singapore to say that country which is probably far away in 5 minutes? No, not possible. So this is where the user, the machine learning comes into the play. It is impossible for the user. Let's take the risky country, Afghanistan, right? So user is signing in, and then 5 minutes later, his sign-in is detected in Afghanistan. How is that possible? Is it a malicious attempt? And then the user activity is actually blocked. So you can actually configure the policies. Actually, the default policies cannot be. They will just trigger an alert, and you have to go and investigate. But you can create session-based policies. So you can create session policies where user is signing in from. The session policy is for the what the user is actually doing in the session is the access policies, if I'm not wrong. And you can actually look at the control. You can add the filters for IP addresses, and category is risky, right? So the user is coming from risky IP addresses. How does it know risky IP addresses? Because Azure AD actually identifies the risky IP addresses based on the dark web. It knows the because there are tons and millions of signals coming into the Microsoft security. They know what are the IPs used in previous attacks. So they've already blacklisted those and tagged this as risky. So when the user comes from risky locations or IPs, I can actually block the user from the signing in, okay, until I complete the investigate, or I can just monitor the activity and let the user continue. But I can send an alert as an email, alert as a text messages. I can even automate the power automate, on the user's device. I can actually initiate a full scan or something like that, but not in this scenario, the risky IP scenario. So this is what the default policies will help you to do. So this is more on the UVBA, the machine learning activities. Again, I'm unfortunately short of time, so I'll have to quickly run these through, but you get the thing. And in the references, I've actually pointed to the article, so you can go further and discuss more of it. Block download of sensitive information. Again, I wanted to quickly show you how it works. If you look at my device, okay, so if you look at this, my device access or work, it's not actually connected to any organization. So this is a personal device, absolutely not used for any organization. And let's say if a user from this environment wanted to access uh, maybe OneDrive. Okay, so let's say I want to access my OneDrive. So this is my OneDrive location, and I will show you how I configured this. Right, so I log in with my account. This is my corporate account, but on a personal device. Signing in, it will ask me for my MFA. Let me approve my MFA real quick. All right, I've done that. Now you see, and if you look at this, my access for my OneDrive, look at the URL. It is actually being redirected to MCAS. It is being reverse proxied, right? So this is one of the things that MCAS does with the conditional access app control. It is actually detecting that I'm coming from an unmanaged device. All of my access to my Microsoft OneDrive for Business is going to be monitored. And now I can only access it from a web browser. I cannot install the OneDrive client and I can access anything. So now if you look at this, right, you must have seen it is the SharePoint, the OneDrive URL is -my.sharepoint.com. But if you look at it in front, it is actually reverse proxying it through Microsoft Cloud App Security. What does this do now? I have created the conditional access app control. I'll show you that. And now I want to download it on my personal device. Okay, let's try to download. Maybe I'll download something else. All right. Now you see, downloading this is blocked by your organization. So I can still access it, right? I can still go to any of the file. Okay, I'll go to this file. I can edit it online. I can complete my work. And then, I can actually just close it without even accessing, downloading a copy of it on my personal device. That's it. Once I do that, it's automatically saved, but I cannot download it. Closed. Go back. All the changes are there. Let's validate that. Yes, all my changes are there. And can I download it? Let me give it a try. Again, blocked. What is there in this file if it is blocked? Actually, it is nothing, but it just tells me the file was blocked, so that is not allowed to be downloaded. So this is in combination with MCAS and conditional access policies, which was the title of my presentation. I think I had submitted my title a long ago, so I couldn't put zero trust there, but this is how it is done. And let me show you how to configure this. So when I go to the Cloud App Security portal, right? And when I go to the connected apps, you look at the conditional access app control policies. It is actually detecting that, okay, the OneDrive for Business is actually through the session control policies. Who has tried to access it, right? If you look at this, the information about the app, the accounts that are trying to use this, all the various activities. Look at this. This is my account I'm trying to access, and from all the various locations that I'm trying to access. Uh, Another thing that I can also actually look at is, here you go. So the user has, the attempt was blocked. So from investigation perspective, I can actually see the information. Okay, so the user tried to download this file from an unmanaged device. So if I look at a previous attempt, it will actually show that it was from an unmanaged device. I think it is there. I had tried this earlier. So in fact, it is, if you look at it, right, it is actually actively looking into all these files. And I had actually in one of the dashboard, if I go, yeah, there you go. So it will tell me 18 protected sessions over last 30 days. And this is in MCAS. And there you go. So I tried to access it from my device. It is actually not able, it takes a while to update this, but I wanted to show you from a previous session. So maybe if it is not here, I can actually look at 8 protected actions. Yeah, this is where it will tell me. And it should tell me the matched policies, why it did that. But let me look at an event from past. Yeah, this one. You see this unmanaged devices policy. So it takes a while to update this information because it was just done today while doing the demo. But if you look at this one, it is from the unmanaged devices policy, right? So this is what it is doing. And then I just go to the conditional access policies and I just create a conditional access policy for unmanaged devices. There you go, unmanaged devices policy. And I say, apply it to me. One app included, which is all of Office 365 in this policy. There are 3 conditions that I have put here. The devices platform is Windows. For unmanaged devices, client apps are included, browser apps, and all device state exclude these 2 because these are already managed devices, right? So this policy will not apply to hybrid Azure AD joint device or a device that is managed by Intune. It will, apart from that, it will apply to all device state. What is the control? Require multi-factor authentication, which it prompted me. And what are the session controls? Block downloads. So when I do that, it actually integrates with MCAS, and you've seen that the action is actually reverse proxied. If you look at this, it is actually reverse proxied. So it actually gives me a control. So when I say zero trust, and when I go back to my previous slide, it says productivity everywhere. Yes, I'm able to give productivity on an unmanaged device, but I have also secured the infrastructure. So that's the benefit. Okay, so this is the demo for black download information, block the download of sensitive information. External governance, extend governance to endpoint remediation is what I spoke about, is the Power Automate. So I'll quickly show you how the policies are created. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time. So I'll quickly show you. I go to my Microsoft Flow. I have created a flow actually. I have already created it. I'll just quickly show. It's very simple. If you go to this is the flow I have created. If I edit my flow, you will see that when an alert is generated in MCAS, okay, so this is the MCAS. When an alert is generated, what is MCAS doing? It is getting inputs from Defender for endpoint. And when it gets an alert, it actually has a device identifier and everything. What does it do? It actually takes the input from the alert, finds the entity, and runs an antivirus scan, a full antivirus scan. That's the flow. That's just the flow, right? We've created the flow. What do we need to do? We actually need to create a policy for risky sign-ins. I have taken an example for ransomware, right? So if a device is impacted, if we get an input signal, there's a suspected ransomware attack, what do we need to do? Fine. If I see a potential ransomware activity, I'm going to automate a flow, start scanning the system. And what can be the ransomware activity? Detection of certain files. If that is detected, Defender for Endpoint sends a signal to MCAS some one of these extension files were there on the device, it creates an alert in MCAS. MCAS triggers a flow. So now an alert is triggered. I can send the alert as an email to SOC. I can send an email, a text message, and then I can send an alert to Power Automate. Hey, you know what? Once you get this signal, immediately run an antivirus scan, which I created in the flow, right? Full antivirus scan, and put the signals back to the defender for endpoint. In the meantime, I will force the user to sign in again. I can actually suspend the user. I can also confirm user is compromised. The moment I confirm a user is compromised, I think the Azure Active Directory will actually block the user from signing in, if I'm not wrong. I haven't tested this one. So, but the require user to sign in will force the user sign out the user and ask him to sign in again. So this is the automated remediation of the threats. You can do that for any of your existing threats, like pass the hash, right? And you detect that, and there is probably certain utilities which shouldn't be run. It will be used to detect this. All right. With that, I think that's all I had. In terms of MCAS licensing, I promised you these are the various licenses with it, with which MCAS is integrated, and we can actually use this information. This should tell you what licensing requirements are there. I have put certain things for references. I just need to add Matt Sussman's video link. Once that is done, I will update the uploaded information. Right. I think I only have 4 minutes left. Let me quickly go through the chat. How do you enable zero trust? So zero trust is not you just don't I mean, it's a culmination of multiple technologies. Yeah, I think Ishwar, my colleague, has responded to that. Yes, it is a combination of technologies. There is no click button to actually say click on something and zero trust will be enabled. It's a process. It's a culmination of multiple technologies, as I've shared in this slide, right? The 3 principles that we shared. For each principle, I tried to put in some reference, technologies that can help you achieve it. But it's a combination of multiple technologies, as we see. I think that's pretty much. I think thanks, Ishwar, for responding to Sarta.